Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the NH Experience. And on my program today, I have another special guest. She is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, but it didn't start there. She's been modeling since 2009. She's been all over the world, been a part of some major campaigns that include Guess, like I said, SI, a plethora of others. She's born in South Africa, and we'll get into her story of what it was like to grow up in South Africa and how she was able to go globally and then come here to the United States, to New York and Los Angeles to develop her career. She's also a spokesman for the treatment of women in the workplace. So we'll get into that. All that and much more here on the NH Experience. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my special guest, Lisa Marie Jaftha.
Hello.
Hey, how you
Thanks for
doing?
having me, Nick. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm great. Did I get your name right?
You did, you did.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
Spot on, actually.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I got that right. So, first of all, I mean, you were born and raised in South Africa. So, talk to us about how it was growing up in a whole different country on a different continent. For those of us that are in the United States.
Okay, well, that's a really good question. Well, being mixed race, my mom is light skinned, my dad is more on my side.
Okay.
So I always just felt like I didn't fit in with anybody. Um, and I kind of like, there were some racial things that were said to me by other African children.
Hmm.
So it was pretty interesting growing up having that happen, but I think South Africa has a long way to still go.
Hmm.
We were freed in like 1990, 1994 with Nelson Mandela, so I feel we still are a fairly new country, but I think things are moving in hopefully a more positive direction.
Now you talked about, I mean, not even being removed, not even 50 years from being removed from apartheid.
Right.
What were some of the things that you had to endure and your family had to endure and witness as in the aftermath of apartheid no longer being a law in the country?
Well, I feel like my parents told me a lot of crazy things that had happened to them in
Hmm.
terms of like being racially classed, like people putting pencils inside in your hair to see if it stays, then you're considered black. If you're not, then you're
Wow.
considered white or other colored.
Uh-huh.
Um, so those are pretty traumatic things for anybody to go through, especially growing up. You know what I mean? So I feel like my folks had it a lot worse than I had it, in terms of like getting work and things like this. My parents have spoken to me about inequalities that they do face within the workplace as well, in terms of like not being able to start your own company unless you work for a white corporation. People will not necessarily trust you, um, which doesn't make sense because, family members are working in insurance for like plus 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
And why wouldn't, if everybody knows you, why would it be so far fetched that you would start your own company? But I guess they just don't support those kinds of things. And my mom has also experienced a lot of racism in
Hmm.
terms of working with African people, being a mixed race person. As I said, South Africa is a fairly new country, so people are still acclimating to
Hmm.
how things are. And there is a little bit of reversed racism that I've definitely noticed. And it's unfortunate, but I hope that we can move forward.
So you talked about just some of the hardships and then some of the things that you and your family had to go through and endure.
Right.
Um, from some of the people in South Africa. But what are some of the gems that you were able to pick up while growing up as well that helped shape your decisions or help shape you as a young person growing up?
That's a fantastic question. I feel like I come from a background of parents that are really hardworking, that don't expect any handouts from anybody. And I feel like that has been instilled into me as well, that I feel like I always should work for things, always try to carry myself as a lady or woman would
Hmm.
to a certain degree. Um, I'm just really happy about that. You know, I see a lot of things happening on social media, and it's very hard to find yourself and accept yourself sometimes when you're trying to be involved in an industry where you see one model of thing working for
Hmm.
everybody. Like, oh, okay, this works for everyone. Maybe I should start doing, what so and so's doing, and that might not be, the best thing for you. So I'm just happy that my parents were able to or I was able to interpret them the way that I did, and I'm just happy that I could hopefully one day when I have kids that they'll be proud of me too.
Well, your parents did a fantastic job. At what point did you realize, okay, I want to become a model? Like I want to be able to model, doing advertisements and clothes and things of that nature. At what point did you come to that decision?
Well, initially I wanted to work as an A&R in a record label because I was
Okay.
really into a lot of underground hip hop and alternative music. So I feel like I wanted to get involved with that because a lot of those artists were not coming to South Africa. So that's what I wanted to get involved in initially. And my mom, in my final year in high school, my mom was like, you should enter the talent competition. And then it ended up being like a modeling show that I was taking part of. And I was like, no, this is not for me. And she's like, you're really good. You should try. And then after I finished school, she ended up contacting a modeling agency that helped me get signed. And it's been a long journey, but that's where it started in
So you had a
Johannesburg.
okay. So you had an ear for hip hop. So what hip hop groups were you into, or hip hop artists were you into that led you that thought you were going to be an A&R rep for a record label?
Okay, well, some of them include A Tribe Called Quest, The Far Side, Jedi Mind Tricks, a Wu Tang Clan, Eminem. I also like alternative music, to be honest, like
Okay.
Metallica, some things from Slayer, Iron Maiden. Those are just a couple. I mean, it's really weird because I'm like, oh, she's from South Africa. How would she know all of this? But I feel like music kind of saved my life because
Hmm.
at that time, like VH1 was still playing all the dope stuff that we like listening to, and MTV was a music channel. So I feel like I was lucky to grow up during that time so that I could be like, oh, wow, there's just different flavors of music
Hmm.
um, that I really gravitated to. So that's why I wanted to be an A&R. And who knows where the future's going to go? I don't
I think you
know.
still got that. I mean, you hit some heavyweight groups. I mean, you got some guys that can really spit bars. And I mean,
Right,
for
right,
you,
right.
people don't realize. I think people, because we're in the states, so we're kind of limited to the access that we understand where hip hop really goes. I mean, we know it goes globally, but we I don't think we fully comprehend how global it really goes and how people really receive the type of hip hop from here in the states that goes out and about on different continents. So
Hell
it's
yeah.
really cool to hear somebody like yourself that was on a different continent in a different country, respect and really appreciate what hip hop has done.
I really love it, and still this day, I still listen to what was it, 93 Till Infinity. I was listening to that
Oh yeah,
yesterday.
Souls of Mischief.
Hell yeah. So it just kind of takes you back in time, like, oh, wow, damn. I don't know. I just feel connected to music from the 90s, probably because I'm a 90s baby.
Hey, same here. I grew up in the G Funk era, so I always tell people I'm always going to be connected to the
Hey,
'90s.
Warren G. Nice one. That
Yep.
one too. Nate Dogg and Warren G.
Yeah, yeah, Death Row, all of that stuff. So I mean, it's always going to be a part of me in some way, shape, or form. Um, what was a part of you happened to be, your success in the modeling industry. I mean, you were able to travel globally. I mean, you've been to Istanbul, you've been to Europe. Um, Talk to a little bit about those experiences for you, and how different were those experiences for you when traveling to different countries outside of your home country.
I always felt like I wasn't meant to stay in South Africa. So for me, traveling was like, yes, I want to go. Let me go see what other people are doing in their countries. And I don't know if you've read this book called The Alchemist by Paulo.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite books. I've read it like, I don't know, probably about 10 times. And it always just inspired me to always want to be on the quest for adventure, learning new things. So when I got the opportunity, I was like, I gotta go. I mean, initially I didn't get the chance to go as a model. I had worked in a hotel in India, lived and worked in a hotel for like 4 months. Modeling is really an interesting career because it doesn't initially start off well. When I started, it initially wasn't like you could go on IG and post a picture and that's how it's gonna go for you. And I'm happy that things have moved ahead in time where people can build a platform just like this. But for me, I was just really happy to get the chance to travel, and this is one of the perks of modeling is that I feel through traveling I have discovered who I am. Kind of, I guess I'm on the journey.
Absolutely. I mean, when I read that you were all in all these countries, and I remember one of your campaigns because I'm like, you just see campaigns, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, but you don't really know the person that is attached to that campaign, what they're modeling for. And I was like, oh, I remember that campaign, right? So it's
Ah,
interesting to see how you've evolved, how you've developed, and then you're going to the United States, you're going to New York City, which is the number one market here in the country, obviously, and then moving on to LA, another big market. Talk a little bit about being able to expand um, brand, I should say, and then expanding your identity as a young woman, being able to be a part of various brands, including Sports Illustrated.
I feel like in my instance, coming from South Africa, which is a third world country, you need visas for everything. So every time I was traveling, I had to prepare in advance and pay. Visas are not cheap, so I had to prepare and pay extra costs just for this reason. So for me, it was all just because I wanted to. And I didn't have anybody that scouted me that was like, oh yeah, we're going to give you an opportunity. In fact, I had agents back in South Africa that were literally so horrible to me just because I was ambitious. I was like, I want to go to New York. I want to do all this stuff. When can I do it? Da, 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 da. And they would just always tell me, it's not the right time for you. It's not the right time for you. And after a while, you just kind of get to a point where I'm like, well, am I ever going to be good enough for you? Because I feel like I'm good enough for myself. So again, my mom was involved in this next decision where she was like, you should go and email a bunch of people that you want to work for, your portfolio, and see if they would be interested. And this is how I got introduced to new agencies where they were like, okay, we liked you. I moved to Germany after this.
Hmm.
Shortly after I sent that email, they sponsored a visa, which I obviously had to pay back. And then after that, I went to the UK. I worked there when the online market really started taking off. I started working for ASOS, Misguided, New Look Fashion, a bunch of other ones that I can't get to right now, but I think I might remember them in a second. And then after that, I got an offer to go to New York City. And I always wanted to go there. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go. Let's see what's going to happen. And I spent a little bit of time in New York. And, I usually like to think of things in terms of how well I do in a place is whether I should stay there or not.
Hmm.
So I didn't feel a connection, to be honest. And so when I came to LA, I was like, wow, it's sunny. Everyone seems to be really happy. And so for me, it was just a natural progression for me to say, I like the Sunshine State, the Bahamas envy, the state where you never find a dance floor empty.
West Coast all day. It's nothing like it. When you talk a little bit about going through the visa aspect and trying to get noticed, I mean, there are a lot of young ladies that have tried to get on and try to take their modeling career to the next level. Obviously, you faced a lot of triumphs, but then you faced some hardships as well. What propelled you to not give up and say, you know what, okay, I'm done. This it's not really clicking the way I think it should click. It's not going in the direction I feel like it should go. What made you persevere through all of that and say, okay, I still want to be a top, ranked model, a top person?
I just always keep it in the back of my mind that I don't really have anything else to go back to. So I came all this way, so I might as well push as far as I can go. And if it doesn't work, I could always return back to South Africa. But I'm gonna try as hard as I can for as long as I can. And there are so many creative, amazing people that live in Los Angeles that I'm just so excited to be here around them and get the opportunity to talk with people like you and a bunch of others that are just on the path of elevation and giving people a platform.
Hey, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you made it. I mean, obviously you made it big. I think one of the most notable campaigns that you were part of was the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. And what was that experience like for you? Like, take us through those steps of when you got the call, your reaction, and then being able to shoot. I think it was in Anguilla that you
Yeah,
were able to shoot.
yeah. Oh,
And what was that experience like?
oh, that was an amazing experience because I didn't initially think that you know you go for auditions and you're just like, oh, okay, you know, everybody's nice. They just I don't think anything unless they call. And about 6 months had passed since I did the audition, and they just the agency at the time had emailed me and said, oh wow, they want to do this body painting series with you. Da 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 da. It's in Anguilla, and I was like, whoa, really? So I was quite shocked because I'd never had a body painting experience. So that was a whole new thing. That was quite interesting, once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm very thankful for just having the chance to represent my country and myself. The body painting itself was grueling. Oh my goodness! It was about we had to start shooting on at 3 o'clock the next day. So I think I arrived at like on a Friday and we are gonna shoot the Saturday. And they're like, yeah, you gotta wake up at 1 o'clock to be ready by to be at the artist's room to start painting, so that by 3 o'clock the afternoon you will be ready. So that was a 13-hour process, and they said that you could
Wow.
possibly fall asleep, but I don't know about you, but I'm fully naked. They were fully professional. The Joanne Gare is one of the most amazing hair and makeup artists in the industry. She's worked with Madonna and Christina Aguilera and you name it. So it was just an honor to work with her. But it was hard for me to fall asleep. So I was super tired and I tried to push through that. And I feel like I gave it the best that I could. And I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to grace the cover or grace the pages of Sports Illustrated.
No, that's amazing. I mean, you have done some incredible work over the years. You have definitely, like I said, been global. You got your face out there. People starting to recognize you. What was that like having fans? I know a lot of guys. I mean, we all pick up the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. We try to see, hey, who's hot, who's the new person on the block, so to speak. What was that experience like for you to interact with fans, especially male fans that may recognize you or see you or pay attention to who you are?
I've only been recognized in person a couple times, and those two times, the both of them were really just very respectful, and I was so nervous too. I was like, oh my god, do I look okay? Am I what you expect me to be? Like, am I supposed to be this deity that lives on the internet? So it really made me very self-conscious to know that people would be able to recognize me in public. At the same time, it was extremely flattering. So there's not much else I could say besides that's very flattering, and it makes you take a step back, like, oh shit, okay, people are looking. Maybe I should be a little
No,
bit.
you know what? And I think the minus the two or three people that you said came up to you, I'm sure there were a lot more that were probably needs to come up to you and say, "Oh my God, like that's her," you know, because I've seen that too. I'm sure you've seen it too, where you have people maybe want to come to approach you, but kind of hesitant.
I mean, I guess so. Um, I, I guess so. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think everybody's different, and
sure.
I feel like everybody is the same. So I don't really, when people act like, oh, put you on the spot like that, it really takes me back, but still very humbling and very flattering experience.
That's awesome. One thing I also want to talk to you about,
Yeah.
you become a spokesman for, women, women's rights, women being respected in the workplace. I know recently we've had a lot of issues. I personally have dealt with or interacted with um, some young ladies I did a story on that were the victims of, sexual, harassment and sexual harassment and things of that nature. We've heard about Essence Magazine and several other publications that have had women not be respected in the workplace. What made you want to come out and use your voice and your platform to bring awareness and attention to this very serious problem?
Well, I did mention earlier in this interview that New York City was a interesting place for me, and
Hmm.
one of the reasons that I wanted to leave was because I was experiencing an issue with somebody in my workplace as a model. A booker was insisting on dating me, and I wasn't into that. And for those reasons, I didn't work as well as I would have liked. I wasn't supported as much as I would have liked. I also realized that I had a responsibility to speak up more about it, and I didn't. And, I think that contributes to a lot of things going on. So now that, all these protests have happened and, we're at home, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, have time to reflect on the important things. And, it's not just about being beautiful and posting you have a perfect life and things like this. I think it's important to try to use your platform, however big or small it is, to make a difference, because ultimately that we are the change we are looking to see. So I just feel the responsibility. And
Well, you know what? I think that's great. I think it's definitely needs to, I think more people need to bring that forth, especially not just women, but I think men too, because I think we always often talk about dealing with social injustice issues that we're dealing with in our society today. It's not just black people or people of color need to speak on racism or inequality or oppression. We also need Caucasian people to recognize it and disseminate that same message. How much do you feel like men, how much of a responsibility do we have in that as far as being able to put that message out and put the importance of that message out in the public?
I feel like sexual harassment goes both ways. So I feel like men have it equally as much as women. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say equally, but I do feel that men do come across this as well. And I think that it should never be tolerated that you could go to work and you can't feel um, that you're safe or that you are respected, because I feel like people should just automatically respect people just as a general standard rule,
Mm-hmm.
to respect everybody. However, I feel like at workplace environments, people really do need to respect the code of conduct in terms of dressing appropriately and things like that. In order to avoid issues like this, I think sticking to a dress code and remembering that you are in a workplace where things need to get done and that it isn't necessarily a place to be wearing the tightest skirt. But, I feel like women should be able to wear what they want, but there is also a responsibility to that on both sides.
No question. When you talked about earlier about obviously being in the modeling industry, I was once in the modeling industry, so I know when you're in a fashion show, you got to hurry up, change clothes, get to the next set, and then move right back in line where you need to rotate on the for the shoot. Do you feel like you were ever overly objectified by maybe like photographers or like you said mentioned earlier about a booking agent trying to do more than just book you? How, if so, how did you deal with those situations and still focus on what you have to do?
Um, Overall, I feel like most photographers are respectful, but there have been the odd occasion where we shoot sexy things. We're women.
Hmm.
We're shooting lingerie. We're
Sure.
shooting, implied things. It's art. It's beautiful. But occasionally there are some people that just can't control their hormones or how they react. And I've had situations where I have shot something with a pretty high profile photographer, and he's fairly close to me shooting. It's an intimate situation. Sometimes the
Right.
shots are close. And he felt the need to touch on my underwear instead of telling me to move it. And I thought that it was a little bit, it's a bit aggressive to be touching a semi nude woman instead of telling me. And I don't feel like I gave him any reason to think that I was interested in that at all. So that was quite interesting. But I do feel that there is a responsibility to speak about these things, and I'm just glad that we have the opportunity to share this in a respectful way.
Absolutely. When you look at what's going on in our country today in the United States, and like I said, social injustice, police brutality, racism, what are some of your thoughts that go through your mind when you're watching? You know, many of us, many people rather, have protested. You have sports figures talking about, Voting Rights Act, protecting the rights of voters, speaking about injustices like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others that have been the victims of police brutality and been murdered at the hands of police. What are some of the thoughts that go through your mind when you witness those things and talk about those things, amongst your friends or just other people?
I think it's really unfortunate that black people, especially the darker your skin color is, that you would be singled out and have a harder time just living a normal life. I think that police officers who do not respect each life as equal should definitely be punished and reprimanded for those things, i.e., Breonna Taylor's police officers have still not been arrested or brought to justice. And I think that those are things that we need to talk about more often. And I feel as well that police should go through a bit more training in order to deal with people. Um, I think it's definitely more than just showing up to work and thinking that you know how to deal with people. You know, situations do escalate. We are also dealing with people that have mental issues that are living on the streets. So for police officers not to be equipped to deal with the public, I think that is a problem. And it's good that celebrity figures are using their voices to speak about important issues, because they are people listen to them more than I think that they would listen to a politician. So, bringing awareness to that as well as using your platforms to speak about important subjects that are personal to you and the world, I think that is important as well. And to vote for your local governors and your mayors as well is important.
Last thing before I let you get on out of here, you mentioned hip hop earlier, so now I gotta ask you. I have to ask you, what are you listening to these days? What's in your car? What's in your what's on in your iTunes or whatever you listen to streaming wise? What are you listening to? What captures your attention? Anybody new that's captured your attention music wise?
I mean, I like Top Dog Entertainment TD. So
Okay.
anybody on that label, I'll be down to listen to anything at any time. But as of recently, I've been listening to ASAP Ferg's new song called "Move Your Hips" with Nicki Minaj. I'm a huge fan, so I've just been trying to support the record and support her. Really love her, and she's also pregnant at this moment. So I think she might be having a baby soon. So I can't wait to see that little baby Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting for sure to see her as a mother now that we've seen her so many years as being just a great artist.
I think she's
Um,
gonna kill it. I think she's gonna be phenomenal, actually.
I
Like
hope so.
I don't think there's anything Nicki Minaj can't do.
Right, she's proven that, right? Have you got a chance to listen to the new Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion record that everybody's been
I
talking about?
actually have. I listened to it last night and I listened to it this morning and I saw the video as well.
What did you
So
think about it?
I think congratulations to the two female artists on a collaboration. I do think that it's awesome that they did something together, and let's see what the future holds for both of them.
Would you want to see them do more projects together, or are you just cool with the one?
I think you know what, I'm down for whatever they want. So uh, it's all about the music. So if the music's good, we're gonna keep listening to it. So whatever they feel comfortable doing, I'm sure their fans and not, supporters really do appreciate it. So shout out to the ladies for doing your thing.
Absolutely. Last thing, any new projects that you are working on or in the process of working on? I know COVID has kind of put a strain on a lot of us trying to get things done. But are you in the process of working on something new or have something new coming out? What's next for you?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, you also feel like you're a lot more busier than you were before, which is so weird because you'd think this wouldn't be happening. But I
Yeah.
am working on a couple of interesting things with Francesca Alana. So I don't want to say too much about what it is, but I will share very soon, and I'm actually excited to share a different side of myself. I recently got into hosting and things like this. So I'm just excited to see where the future goes, and I know that everything's going to actually be really well. I have a bunch of really good, talented, creative people that I'm so happy that I found them because, it's hard to find people that actually want to help people these days without an agenda. So I'm just really thankful to have good people that want to see me do great too.
Yeah, I saw you out there hosting with Pop Fusion TV and a couple other things.
Yeah,
So
I'm actually doing a
congratulations.
segment with them next week.
Okay.
So I'm excited to share that too.
Well, good for you. You know what? Congratulations on all the success that you've had. Congrats to the future success in advance. You're doing a remarkable job just making sure you're using your voice and your platform to bring awareness and to really just enlighten people and to show the fact that, hey, you're not just, one dimension. You can do a multitude of things. And I think anybody can do a multitude of things if they put their mind to it. So I thank you so much for coming on. And please let everybody know where they continue to keep up with you on social media.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. It's been a pleasure to spend a couple of minutes with you. Anybody who's watching can follow me on Instagram at Lisa Marie Jaftha. Nick, can you put that on the screen
I
so
got you.
they can
Don't even worry
see?
about it. I got you.
Um, I post when I can and things like that. So, yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Well, thank you, Lisa Maria. We appreciate you, and we'll definitely talk to you soon. And we'll keep an eye out on these new projects too.
Thank you, Nick.